Before we start this essay/video, here is your first and only spoiler warning for Season 2 of The Mandalorian, Star Wars The Last Jedi, and Star Wars Return of the Jedi. You know what franchise I love with all my heart? The one that brings me joy, sadness, pain, and pretty much every other emotion known to humans? By the spoiler warning you heard at the beginning of the video, you could probably guess that it's
Star Wars! Nothing but Star Wars!
I live and breathe this franchise. I've loved it ever since my dad showed me the original trilogy on VHS. It's a series that I hold near and dear to my heart, but I'm gonna be honest here, I am so freaking exhausted with this franchise. And no, it's not because of what George Lucas did with the prequels, because I honestly don't mind the first two, and Revenge of the Sith is freaking awesome. And it's certainly not because of how Disney handled the sequel franchise, because I adore The Force Awakens, Rogue One, and The Last Jedi, and we're not really going to talk about The Rise of Skywalker, cause whatever. What makes me so damn exhausted with Star Wars is its fan base. I think Star Wars has the worst fan base in entertainment. No matter what George Lucas or Dave Filoni or Kathleen Kennedy or anyone else did with the movies or the games or the TV shows, the fandom would always react in some nonsensical way that just makes me exhausted. And I say all this because I witnessed all of Star Wars fans have yet another meltdown just recently when The Mandalorian debuted its Season 2 finale and a certain famous Jedi made a rather incredible appearance. That's right, after hinting earlier in the season that Baby Yoda or the child or Grogu or whatever he's going by these days reached out to a Jedi through the Force, one finally appeared in the form of a post-Return of the Jedi, Luke Skywalker.
Are you a Jedi?
I am.
Of course, as soon as the episode premiered on Disney+, many people had staggering reactions to his inclusion. On one end, you have people jumping for joy as Disney finally gave the fans the Luke we always dreamed of, the superhero who would never turn his back on those who fight for the light. On the other end, you have people up in arms over how this Luke apparently goes against the broken and beaten figure that we saw in Rian Johnson's sequel, Star Wars The Last Jedi, as if Disney wanted fans to forget about this take on the character and just remember him as a superhero. Then you have another sect of fans who claim that Luke should have never been there in the first place, as The Mandalorian had tried to separate itself from the greater Star Wars universe, and that him appearing in the series actually cheapens it and shows that the franchise can't move on from its past. Truth be told though, I don't really care about the general consensus on these kinds of things. I sat there in my basement with my dad and watched my all-time favorite Star Wars character cut through several Dark Troopers with ease and look awesome while doing it. That being said though, I understand why fans of The Last Jedi would be upset over how Luke is shown here, because it's a direct contrast to the man who had cut himself off from the Force. But again, that's just not how I saw it, and I say this as someone who claims that The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars movie since The Empire Strikes Back, and that Luke in The Last Jedi is my personal favorite version of Luke. Luke in Mando not only adds to the legend of Luke Skywalker, but also fills in some gaps on the pain Luke carries with him in The Last Jedi. What I want to talk about in today's video is why I believe Luke's appearance in The Mandalorian works, in that it falls perfectly in line with how Luke has been portrayed in Star Wars, as well as honors Luke's depiction in Rian Johnson's 2017 film, The Last Jedi. The beginning of The Last Jedi finds Luke already in his fragmented state. We find out that he no longer feels the Force and has been gone from his family for quite some time. Over the course of the film, we learn that Luke had become a legend across the galaxy, and that the stories about him reached far and wide. He began to rebuild the Jedi Order, recruiting a handful of students, including his own nephew, Ben Solo. However, it's revealed that Ben, with urging from Snoke, began to turn to the dark side. When Luke sensed this, he resorted to drastic measures, igniting his blade atop his nephew in what he saw as a way to prevent the galaxy from suffering once again. He then says to Rey that he regretted that decision a second later, but this was a mistake that could not be undone, and Ben fully turned to the dark side and destroyed Luke's Jedi Temple, and with that, the legend of Luke Skywalker vanished from the galaxy. So then, how does this all connect to Luke in The Mandalorian? Well, I think it starts with this line from The Last Jedi. Luke says to Rey,
You don't need Luke Skywalker.
Did you hear a word I just
You
said?
think what? I'm gonna walk out with a laser sword and face down the whole First Order?
Now, I think that line is very interesting because it's exactly what we'd expect Luke to do. I mean, he is the one who blew up the Death Star, turned Vader to the light side of the Force, and became the new face of the re-emerging Jedi Order. It's what we'd want Luke to do, and he does all of this in The Mandalorian. He single-handedly cuts through every droid in his path, as the series gives credence to why there is a legend of Luke Skywalker. At this point in his life, Luke is near invincible, and it's a sight to behold. That being said though, that's also the exact thing that makes the events of The Last Jedi all the more tragic, yet poignant. In The Last Jedi, Luke offers Rey more thought-provoking teachings, in which he tries to explain that the old ways of the Jedi need to end, but he doesn't offer a solution to this point. He has seen what the teachings of the Jedi can do to someone riddled with conflict, and refuses to teach anyone ever again. Now, it makes sense that Luke would feel this way. After all, it's his teachings that inevitably led Ben Solo into the arms of Snoke, paving the way for his turn. He doesn't want Rey to go down the same path despite her persistence. What she wants is the old ways of the Jedi. This is exactly how Luke approaches Grogu in The Mandalorian, with these old ways. At this point in the story, all Luke knows is the old ways of the Jedi. His teachers were Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, two people who were literally instrumental in Anakin's fall to the dark side of the Force. With Luke gearing up to rebuild the Jedi Order, he acts exactly like the masters who came before him. He stands before Din Djarin, or as most people know him, the Mandalorian, and his ragtag crew, proclaiming that he will do everything in his power to protect Baby Yoda, and that he is willing to give his life to ensure his safety. Spoken like a true Jedi. But it's this line of thinking that eventually leads to Luke's failure. It isn't wrong to say the things that Luke said since he believes he is doing what's right. It's what Obi-Wan and Yoda would do, and it's right in line with how the Jedi would operate prior to the rise of the Empire. The Jedi were known as these force-wielding heroes of the Republic, an almost indestructible force for good, one that could never be destroyed. In this episode, Luke adds to that legend, showcasing that Grogu is probably safer with him thanks to the power he has. In actuality though, it adds to the ignorance of the Jedi. It's a massive amount of pressure that Luke has taken on here, but again, it's what he's been taught, so it's what we should expect of him. At this point in his life, Luke is everything a Jedi should be. Selfless, wise, one with the Force, but he also carries everything wrong with the Jedi. Ignorant, cocky, and emotionless. It makes his failure with Ben Solo all the more heartbreaking because with this lone scene, we finally see that Luke truly had the best intentions for his Jedi. He thought that the galaxy needed the Keepers of the Peace back, so he gave his life to recruiting students and promising to protect them. But we know he's destined to fail. We know that in 20 odd years, he'll stand over Ben Solo, lightsaber in hand, full of regret. But even in his failure, Rian Johnson shows that it is possible to rise above it.
Heeded my words not, did you? Pass on what you have learned. Strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher, failure is.
Switching gears now back to The Last Jedi, Luke takes the lessons he's learned through his life and goes to face the enemy one last time. The Luke that we see on Crate is the combination of the maxed out superhero in The Mandalorian and the Luke who has grasped that the dogmatic ways of the Jedi have to change. People claim that The Mandalorian was the first time we saw badass Luke, But in reality, it was when he literally walked out alone and faced the entire First Order. He force projects himself across the galaxy, not to cut down everything in sight, but to divert the enemy's attention long enough so that the Resistance can live to fight another day. This is what goes right in line with Luke saying to the Mandalorian, "I would give my life to protect the child," because he does exactly this for the Resistance on Crate. Luke in The Mandalorian gives more reason for why Luke in The Last Jedi exists. One is not trying to retcon the other. It's the same Luke at different stages of his life. Luke has and always will be a Jedi Master. To me though, his true mastery of what it means to be a Jedi doesn't come until the end of The Last Jedi. That film acts as a culmination of everything Luke has learned over the years. The Last Jedi was jarring because we don't see what happened to Luke in those 30 years. We're immediately placed at the end of his story. And that's where The Mandalorian appears to help fill in the gap. It gives credence to why Luke is initially so against teaching Rey, because he's been down this path before. In Mando, Luke is everything Rey was hoping for, and by extension, probably everything Grogu was hoping for. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, the creators of The Mandalorian, showcased everything Luke wanted to be. Rian Johnson showcased that our heroes can make mistakes and fail, but even then, they'll always be there for us. And in the end, all three men gave us a perfect depiction of Luke Skywalker. So that's my take on Luke Skywalker and The Mandalorian. As always, let me know what you guys liked and didn't like. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Manakos. I'll link that below. And as always, I've been Nick Pulmanakos, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later, guys.